Ms. Kristin Murrell, and she will be presenting Education for Millennials and Post-Millennials Through Technology. Then we have Ms. Stacy Alcantara. She'll be presenting Steelpan Manufacturing Pilot Project 2014 to 2019, Trinidad and Tobago. And then we'll have Mr. Stanley West. From music notation to animated score, digital media technology assist for the Pannist. When they are complete, we'll have a short question and answer / discussion session. So let's welcome Ms. Kristin Murrell.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So my presentation is on, as she said, education for post-millennials through technology, using technology through online applications to enhance learning experiences. Creating opportunities for students is essential to their growth and development and continued success. The goal of an educator is to guide students along their path by generating prospects which they can now choose their own doors to open. The idea. The primary aim of this presentation is to discuss pragmatic approaches and practices integrating technology that can improve current methods of educating millennials and post-millennial music learners locally. Trinidad and Tobago is the leader in music education within the Caribbean. As such, we as educators are challenged with looking towards the advancement of music education among the generation of learners today. We do so by particularly incorporating more digitized learning within our classrooms to keep our students engaged and relevant in this growing digital economy. Digital resources are growing exponentially, but we have yet to tap into this intrinsic value, assisting in cultivating a rounded performer, musician, and student. The focus begins by cultivating healthy practice habits into the core repertoire of today's students' lifestyle. The premise of this idea is to include online learning applications or apps that promote consistent learning after the classroom session has concluded. It also encourages personal responsibility for the student while including options for parental inclusion, peer-to-peer sharing, understanding digital citizenship, and much more. Using online apps maximizes learning and engagement outside of the classroom by empowering students but maintaining distance communication with applications like the Steelpan, which I believe we should all be familiar with. It makes accessibility to our national instrument readily available in the theoretical class and combating the primary issues of storage, instrument space, noise pollution, and general performance tools. This method of learning can aid in preventing students from being disengaged in the classroom in higher education. An inclusive curriculum that broadens the scope of learning styles creates increased motivation, both intrinsic and extrinsic, higher achievement, and creates more tolerant students. Furthermore, combining the use of modern technology advances the current tech-savvy demographic of students. Furthermore, combining the use of modern technology advances with the current tech-savvy demographic of students is essential to their growth and learning curve, as it also helps support the competitive standards of the international market. So my focus topics today in Steelpan education would include why include technology, ways to incorporate tech into the classroom, positive attributes of using online applications, and additional tools that can aid in enhancing the classroom experience. So why technology and why online apps? The benefits of learning music and using educational apps to do so. So my primary question I asked was, how is using apps, how does that really aid in the development of our students and general education? So in thinking and answering that question, I decided that thinking that music really involves a lot of active engagement and a lot of discipline, of course. And it results in a lot of far-reaching benefits for the learner outside of just the classroom and outside of just being a musician. As some of the panels discussed before, there are so many different benefits that you get outside of music that can help you be a better citizen, a better sister, brother, father, friend, and all-round better human being. And in classrooms and in schools, one of the challenges that we have today is in the area of active engagement, which can lead to challenges with discipline and focus among our students. Children, particularly born after the year 2000, they're born in a time of rapidly growing technology. Therefore, they are very tech savvy. When we see a 1 or 2-year-old operating a remote or navigating apps on a phone, we tend to think, oh my gosh, how can a child that young know how to do all these things? But they're born in a time when these things exist, and they are seeing it, therefore they're learning through visual cues and hearing what their peers and their family and their friends are doing. So in order for us to really assist this generation of learners in incorporating music and incorporating general education, we need to meet them where they're at, and they're in a time of technology. When we channel those innate abilities of those children in the field of education, children today would be more likely engaged in their learning. So how do we incorporate tech into their class or into their general learning? Discussing the avenues for including technology, its impacts, functions, and primary goals. The first avenue, I think, we here locally can start incorporating aspects of music technology through apps is in our classrooms using what I mentioned earlier, the digital pan. If you may not know, the digital pan is the first full-range app that was created in Trinidad and Tobago for Steelpan. It was launched in November of 2011. It boasts of allowing users to virtually play the Steelpan on their mobile device and also select an array of options, enhancing their musical experience. It was primarily designed for one platform, which is the iPhone and iPad. However, there are other methods that you can use to include an application for Steelpan within your class. My recommendation for using this app is based on the extensive challenges educators sometimes face in the classroom. Some of those include, like I mentioned earlier, storage space, instrument space, disconnect between theory and applied lessons, general performance tools like playing mallets, care and maintenance. Sometimes we may not realize it when we think, oh, a Steelpan is in every school, but not every school has a music space. I recently spoke to a colleague who does not have a music space, yet he's a Steelpan teacher. So how does he combat the obstacles that he faces with no resources to actually teach something within his classroom? And I feel like this tool that we have that exists for several years now can be one of the ways that we can combat those issues, using the app within the classroom. And what that does, it helps with the areas that I mentioned earlier. He doesn't have space, he doesn't have tools, but we have our tools right here for it, which is our fingers. We have the internet, we pull it up, we download it, and there he has a space to actually use practical applications for his sessions in a structured classroom. It may not be an ensemble room, but he has a classroom to still actually get some work done. Most students as well don't have instruments at home, but most do have smart devices. Using the app as a reinforcement to classroom instruction is highly likely to raise the accessibility and the user preference because, like I mentioned, we're in a tech-savvy world. If you tell a child they have to use an app for a class, I'm pretty sure they're going to be like, how do I download it? Where do I go? It's really easy. You don't need to convince them to do that. The perspective of practice time as well, which I will get to talking about a little bit later about practice. The practicality of them actually practicing is a lot more because they have the instrument at their fingertips. So these are some of the If we don't know some of the benefits of the digital Pan app, it was created here, therefore a little bit of patriotism and pride in having something that was created here and belongs to us. It should be the number one reason to use it, although it doesn't discredit any other apps that are out there. It has the full range of the family of instruments. It has high quality sound. It has in-app tutorials. It is multi-touch with rotation and placement. So I mentioned the practice earlier, and practice can be the most challenging aspect of learning because it takes place outside of the classroom without the teacher, yet it is arguably the most essential piece to effective learning and progress. Practice along with motivation couples in enhancing a student's interest and ability within a classroom. Motivation being, as I mentioned earlier, both intrinsic and extrinsic. When people are intrinsically motivated, the quality of their action leads to better performance. They are more passionate and have a stronger sense of personal commitment. Some students are motivated extrinsically. This type of motivation arises from outside the individual and is driven by external rewards. Identifying the existing types of motivation in our classroom allows us to create better strategies to aid in motivating our students. Both forms of motivation can coexist in an individual and in the same space. Using applications is a great way to bridge the gap between both learning and development methods in your classroom. In this current climate of technology applications, we are consistently being forced to create, to enhance new things, to challenge ourselves and promote even the way we think about everyday activities. So here is just, of course, a whole host of different apps that we see and we use every day. And I've been asking myself, why aren't we moving in the direction of including these things so we can control the narrative of how our students and how our children learn? If we just leave it open, then you're leaving a lot of space for anything to happen. And it's funny that we do most of our life outside of school using technology, being on our phones, emails, iPads, tablets, you name it. But in the school space, we still constrict students to only using it after school or only using it at a particular period. Whereas if we bring it into the classroom, we can now create the direction that we want students to go. The positive attributes of apps: it creates community, reinforces distant learning, fosters digital citizenship. It's eco-friendly because we don't have to waste paper. It's a safe space and it allows students to be accountable for their learning process. This is the app that I would like to introduce to us today. It's called Seesaw and it's the Learning Journal. The benefit of this app in particular, it results in when students buy in. Like I said, you don't have to convince students about it. It enhances more meaningful practice. It preserves class time for instruction, and it has parental and family involvement. And the way it has that, there's a separate app that families get to download that they can actually see and participate in what their child does within their classroom. And the way we would use this is not an app specific to music, but the way this is done, there are components of video upload. There's components where you can use community building, or you can use your own material where you upload it. You invite your students to be a part of the app, and that way you get to control the content, whereas I mentioned earlier, there's a safe space for you. Nothing is shared outside of the app. Everything stays within. Parents, as I said, can see in. Students are free to share. When we talked about practice earlier, practice is a part of this, where we ask students to create content, to do rehearsals, to do practice at home. And they upload those videos and share it with their teacher, who can now either share it with the class or keep it individual. The culture of this app incorporates confidence and positivity, digital citizenship, communication, and connection. It develops lifelong learning through a desire to learn, because there's an unlimited amount of times where you can record something and upload it, and you can always see the the chronological order from when you begin to when you end, and it really helps the student control the channel of where they're going to go. Students can go at their own pace, and they are accountable to themselves and their peers through this. As educators, we can guide how students practice, teach them ways to practice, and have students show what they've created by uploading it to the app. These are some similar apps. On this side, we have apps that are practical for Steelpan, where you get to download and play outside of the digital pan. And on this side, there are similar applications that can go alongside the one that I just showed you guys that can coincide with the practical application. So students are allowed to be on here, but you can bridge the two gaps into creating a cohesive lesson plan that allows students to really be successful in their learning. And some of the ways that Seesaw is really good, it is free for families and teachers. Seesaw asserts we are committed to meaningful engagement with students in their learning, and having a free version of Seesaw is one of the ways that we do that. Thanks. So I will just end with the favorite quote that I really like. This is what I use as an educator. The true purpose of art education is not necessarily to create more professional dancers or artists. It is to create more complete human beings who are critical thinkers, who have curious minds, who can live productive lives. And using apps in the classroom is one of the ways that I think we can do that. Thank you.
Okay, greetings everyone. Right, so greetings everyone. I'm Stacy Alcantara. This is Stacy Alcantara, president of the Pannist Schools Coordinating Council. And before I make my presentation, I just really want to congratulate Mr. Mark Loquan and the team on this wonderful opportunity, and I look forward to Pan notation, so congratulations. Well, I'm looking at a different side of the technology. I'm looking at steel pan manufacturing. How many of you know that steel pan manufacturing is happening in secondary schools in Trinidad and Tobago? Oh, that's a good thing. Great. So that makes a bit of my job easier. So let me just show you a little clip, and then I'll get into it.
Have to be leaders in the world when it comes to pan manufacturing and pan performance.
I always like pan. So my mom was like, you know how to play pan, you could know how to make pan.
The Steelpan instrument gives a quicker response.
And this birthed in us the idea that we needed to teach our young people how to make the pan.
The Steelpan instrument is one thing that Trinidad and Tobago could use to develop its export potential and also get a lot of young people involved.
Okay. So My presentation concerns Steelpan manufacturing in secondary schools, and this is based on a pilot project that we completed in June this year. And what you just saw was a clip from a documentary that was produced about Steelpan manufacturing pilot program in the school system. So, the name of the film is From Steelpan, the National Instrument, to Steelpan, the Industry. This was produced by the NGO, Pannist Schools Coordinating Council, and it was funded mainly by Shell. This features the historic implementation of a pilot program, as I just mentioned, in CVQ, which is Caribbean Vocational Qualification. And this is under the CXC body. So it is really an examinable subject in the secondary school system. This was done among 9 secondary schools in Trinidad and Tobago. And one of the main reasons we ventured into the whole idea of Steelpan manufacturing in the first place, as you all would note, many of our icons are passing on. And just yesterday, we celebrated the life and sent home one of our icons, Gabriel Doyle himself. So it is quite fitting, I think, that we continue having this discussion as we honor those who have sacrificed and toiled for us to be here, to even have the discussion about Steelpan. So it's very near and dear to us. So our whole idea here is to develop a cadre of skilled and certified persons to fill the void and support the development of the Steelpan industry in Trinidad and Tobago. Furthermore, this certification, we really wanted to ensure that there is some kind of grounding in science and technology. So a little bit of the background again. As I said, we are an NGO, and we were actually established in 1999. At that time, there weren't many Steelpan events, there weren't many Steelpans in the schools, actually. And there are many Steelpans, many schools, still lobbying to have Steelpans in their schools, even though we have 100+ participation in schools, Panorama and Junior Panorama. So there's a demand for it. At that time, teachers got together. They were concerned. They wanted Steelpan and to be entrenched in the curriculum, not just on the periphery. So PSCC then recognized the need to work on this. In keeping with our mission to inculcate an appreciation for our national instrument, the Steelpan, through education, innovation, and advocacy towards cultural sustainability, we initiated a number of programs beginning in 2003 with the aid of corporate bodies. And one of our major achievements was when the PSCC's proposal to the Ministry of Education, which was entitled Pan in the Classroom. In 2003, the ministry accepted our proposal, and they developed a unit called Pan in the Classroom Unit, and people sometimes mix up PSCC with Pan in the Classroom, so we are the NGO. Pan in the Classroom Unit was established and is now called the Multiculturalism Music Program Unit, or MMPU. So that was something that we were very pleased with and keeping with our goals. Another critical milestone was the production of our documentary, which I just mentioned, which really we wanted to use to help promote what was happening and in terms of the pilot program, and to sort of build interest amongst the target audience, parents, ministry officials, the general population, the region, and beyond that. And we thought, why not film? Because yes, students have access, everyone has access to the technology, and we have had this film featured in the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival. We also entered the film in the Palm Bay Carib Film Festival in Florida, and presently on the 18th, Friday the 18th of October, next week Friday, it's going to be screened at the Melbourne Independent Filmmakers Festival in Florida. And we're very, very excited about this. And remember, the idea is to sell, to market, to share what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. And I would say at the festival, the Palm Bay Carib Festival in Florida, people were amazed to know about the steel pan manufacturing process. And we take the students from the origins, because in the school we don't have the technology. We have labs, some labs in some of the schools, but we don't have things like pneumatic hammers and all of this type of technology. So they take the discarded, the used drums, and they start from there. And we are really mindful of embracing the master tuners in the communities because they have so much to share. And it is important that we keep connected with them as we try to develop an industry that is sustainable. All right, so this is the poster for the film that will be aired next week, screened next week. So our vision, ensuring a brighter tomorrow for the world through Steelpan, the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago. And I would have mentioned our mission. So in 2002, there was a Steelpan conference. And at that time, Patricia Adams, who was the former president of PSCC, she would have understood from that conference that there is a concern about our Steelpan manufacturers passing on, dying, and not passing on the skills. What was developed out of that was a series of hands-on workshops that we used to have in collaboration with NIHERS, and those began in 2003. That first one, there were 200 participants from schools across the country. And it's a bit blurry, but here is a picture of a group that emerged from those workshops, from that 2003 workshop. And this group were persons who were interested in continuing to learn the skill. And in this group, you have persons like Joshima McIntosh, who is still in the business, and you have Augustus Peters, second from the left, right? So he was part of that first program in 2003, and they graduated in 2004. And here's another picture with a few more of them. You also see Kyle Noel on the extreme right, and he's right out there, and he has his own Steelpan business. I must mention and really recognize and thank Mr. Jimmy Phillip, who was the sole tutor in that program. He was the facilitator, and a lot of these students would have passed through his hands. And I must give him credit for being willing to share the skill and to pass on the art form. And this is an article from the Guardian newspaper, January 15, 2017. And here's Kyle, who is right outside, with his company, Noel Steelpan Productions. And here we have Augustus, who many people would see in the arena as one of the really, really popular current Steelpan manufacturers, and he's in high demand. And we keep connected with all of them because we are really interested in sustainability, keeping them connected so that we could continue to pass it on. Now, we do have students in the secondary school system who are interested, but there are some challenges. Now, the first school to participate in this program was Mukurapo West Secondary School. The first tutor is Mr. Kurt Sargent, and he's right outside there with our display. And he is considered a pioneering teacher, of course, in this industry. Many students have passed through his program, and they have succeeded in acquiring their CVQ certification. And this CVQ certification, let me mention, it is significant for us in the region. As I said, CVQ stands for Caribbean Vocational Qualification. It is a competency-based approach to training, assessment, and certification, which is certified by CXC. One of the benefits is that it facilitates the free movement of skilled and certified workers within the Caribbean single market economy. So therefore, we have expanded on opportunities for employment for our citizens and sharing of this skill. Now, it is open to any school in the Caribbean doing CVQ, but it commenced in Trinidad and Tobago based on the pilot program that we just concluded. So these are some of the schools. As I said, Mukarapo West Secondary, under Mr. Kurt Sargent, is the first school. East Mukarapo Secondary, San Fernando East Secondary, Bonaire, Chaguanas North, Toco Secondary, Goodwood Secondary in Tobago, La Romaine Secondary, and last but not least, Russell Atterbury Secondary, where I teach the program, having been trained under Jimmy Phillip also. So, I'll just get straight to some of the things that we are looking for in terms of sustaining the program. The pilot has ended. Almost 500 students over the 5 years have passed through the program in the different schools. Some of them were fortunate to go on to MIC to get their advanced training, but some of them are still waiting in the wings. One of the benefits also in the program was that some were taken on as technicians to work in the schools to help the teachers deliver the program. At this stage, however, it has not been fully adopted by the Ministry of Education, but we are having talks with them. So this is our recommendation. One, that the Ministry of Education would fully adopt the CVQ manufacturing program that we piloted for 5 years with Shell, and moving it from pilot to institutionalization. 2, expansion of the program to other secondary schools. 3, creation of the posts of CVQ, Steelpan manufacturing teacher and technician, and the continued training of personnel to fill these posts. 4, collaboration with other ministries and the private sector to ensure the ready supply of resources such as drums, tools, and equipment to support the curriculum. 5, collaboration with other ministries and the private sector to support the construction of well-equipped Steelpan labs at the secondary schools. And this was facilitated again by Shell. So there are labs in most of the schools in the pilot. The provision of incentives for the manufacturing sector to facilitate the establishment of apprenticeship and youth entrepreneurial programs. This is critical. Focus on Steelpan manufacturing. And we did a program with youth business, and we had all the students come, and they were most interested in that youth business aspect of things. Forging a greater links with the tertiary institutions such as MICIT to facilitate the smooth transition of students from secondary to tertiary. Provision of greater support and incentives for research and development for the Steelpan industry. So that's my time. There's lots more to say, but I'm just hope that we will get support from everyone who has an interest and a stake in Steelpan to move it from where it is now to a viable and sustainable industry. I'm Stacy Alcantara. I thank you very much.
No, the first one is the first video. They numbered 1, 2, 3.
Oh, you're running your video.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Stanley West.
Music notation software programs are utilized by the pen community. One example the use of animation in learning to play the piano has been around for some time. First as a live sequence of lighted bulbs associated with each note on the keyboard following a particular tune. Now a video of animated piano keys follow the score. A more recent development is the cascading notes. Both methods use the MIDI type file that notation programs can export. Online courses have been developed for the teaching of pen on a tune-by-tune basis using a mobile app. www.udemy.com.
Welcome to the course. My name's Mark, and I'm going to show you how to play this song.
Videos similar to the foregoing can also be developed using animation/sequencing software rather than a mobile app. If we rotate the cascading note output 90 degrees, this is identical to the piano roll or MIDI editor in a typical DAW, digital audio workstation. Each element in the editor identifies the pitch and duration of a note. We match the notes to a video clip of the corresponding pen icon on which the notes would be played. These videos can be generated from a drawing or picture that can be converted to a video in several free or online programs. Using the DAW to output the entire assembly of videos in one video. This applies to all pen instruments/voices playing its part of the tune. Using a video editor notation can be added and synchronized to the animation, with or without music notation. What follows are short video clips of an animated pen score for the various instruments involved and a composite video of the ensemble, playing the complete tune.
this first video just jumped the gun on the timekeeper. So that's why it started without saying much more. But, okay. Well, you didn't see that. The first screen of the video, where is the title of the presentation, which is from notation, which I define as, or let's say for the purpose of this presentation, I'm defining as what you consider the music sheet then. But the animation or the score is what is seen is the dynamics and the pan then. So we have that distinction now just for the purpose of the presentation. Okay? So the presentation is taken from notation and bringing it to the animated score, which is the rotating pan. All right? And on myself, I am neither musician or Pannist. I just dabble in electronics. I started in electronics. I went to computers. And when I went to Animation Festival, in 2014, there was a Trinidadian guy, in fact, and he is the musical director of electronic arts. And if you know electronic arts, these are the fellows who make the blockbuster animation movies, and he's the audio director. And he gave this presentation of the DAW he uses, which is digital audio workstation, the program that they use to make all this music and sound. And he said, well, if you're interested in this, you could try this one, which is like, these freeware programs. So I took it down and I went and started looking at it and I said, well, this thing is magnificent. In that, if you could think of mathematics, what a spreadsheet is to mathematics, a DAW is to audio and sound. That is the kind of capability you have in this particular. And all these music producers use them, and it has all this capability. And in playing around with it, I came up with this. But then this was generated by an idea I had many years ago. In fact, in 2000, Trinidad had a conference, the first scientific conference on the technology of Steelpan. And I presented a paper on what I will show you now. Oh. Sorry, hold it. All right, well, sorry, I'll come back later. Right, I presented a paper, and from then till now, 2019, it's almost 20 years, and I got no feedback. And that was after deciding whether I should patent this device and whatnot. And I said, okay, let me update it to this phase and see if the pan movement will accept it again. And here I am. All right? So the first one was really taking an article I saw in a magazine where they were putting LEDs, which are these small light bulbs, on a piano, on the piano keys, and programming a tune so that you can just follow the keys and play the music. So I said, well, why not the pan? And that's how I transformed it to the pan. And I did the paper. And I eventually developed something like this with the pan icon, the LEDs, which you could light in different colors, programmed to play a particular tune. It never got accepted, and that's where we are today. So we have the next phase, which is the DAW, which is essentially the same idea. And it's up to the pan movement to determine whether they want to have a look at that. The other thought I had was producing a mobile app. So this is the one I'll show you now.
Wouldn't it be great if each Pannist had a personal drill master on call 24 hours? Think about it. With such a drill master, a Pannist could practice at home, indeed anywhere, using the smartphone pan app or a tablet. Think of how much faster he will be able to learn a tune and how many tunes he will be able to learn. Coming soon to a tablet near you is the drill master played will be highlighted on the screen in the order in which they are to be played. All you have to do is follow the icon and play the corresponding note on the pan. Take a listen to this. digital drill master can slow down to turtle speed. Indeed, operate at a range of speeds for convenience of learning the tune. How does a tablet get a tune in the first place? Of course, the drill master either inputs it into the tablet or he sends you a file to upload, which is the correct tune. The drill master has a host of features that would simulate the actual Pannist experience. For instance, you can upload any of the other parts of the tune that the associated Pannist would be playing while you are playing yours. And you can play as though the entire band was rehearsing.
All right, so there's another application of the same concept. So I went to the state enterprise, that gives funding for these apps, and they wanted a market study to convince them that this is a marketable product. And this really is, is a passion project. You can't say that, tell them that there's this wide market for pan. We come like the case of the guy who is a shoemaker and he has 2 sons and he sells them in a remote village. First one comes back and says, but Dad, nobody wears shoes here, we don't have a market. And the other one goes and he says, Dad, but nobody wears shoes, we have an expansive market. So, So I left the institution and I went to UE, and they did the electrical engineering department. They did an excellent job, gave a student as a project, and the student produced a nice little app. So the lecturer said, okay, well, you could engage them and follow up. But sadly, the students were not interested, and the one that did it is really a Pannist too. But they weren't interested, and it just died there. But it's still a viable project. And as you saw in the first video, somebody is using an app to do online courses, which we could do also. I mean, we teach Pan. We have, how many teachers we had for Pan today? Okay? So I'll give you this next one and we could go. This is the original slide from 2000. That is in the conference papers of that conference. And that was the title then. It was really something for the novice to be able to learn to play without having to negotiate a score sheet. Right? And that was the idea. From a magazine, you have these magazines where you buy the electronic parts and you assemble them and you get it working and that's it. And that's what we could do with the pan. Right? This is an electronic circuit which was drawn by the writer of the article. And I just modified it by taking the area where it branches off and you have a double view of all the LEDs there. That was just a modification I made to expand the number of lights that you could use in a 29-node pan sort of thing. You need a programming device to do it, and there's the screen of the computer, there's the program. In fact, that in those days is assembly language, talking about 2000 sort of thing, right? And here is it, the guy who wrote the article, and my modification to develop the project in 97, 03, 08 is the final modification. And in fact, Dr. Copeland, I went to him to get assistance because he's electrical and I am more in the mechanical area. So that's how I was able to do that. There's the assembly language, and this is the section where the national anthem is what was programmed. And you could segment sections of the national anthem for learning in sort of phrases until you go to the complete tune and you master it. And then you could program others and do the same thing. And there's the national anthem available from the government printry. And that is my prototype that was built and available at the 2000 presentation, this front and back. And then I just showed you what was the factory-assisted version that I have here, which I would like to donate to the Music Literacy Trust. I don't know if you all accept artifacts. Because the technology is obsolete, so it could be different. All right, so we see that with the 3 iterations, you have the first project, which is this. To me, it's still viable because when you look at something like the mini pan, these are the booklets that go with 2 different versions, right? This is one sold and another one. Yeah. So that this could be scaled down to this size. In fact, given that the cell phone app is a popular format and convenient these days, you could bring it down to that level. And things like if we give diplomats, they give the different countries. The PAN, they could take this with tunes program to suit their environment and they could continue using it rather than the PAN just stay unused for a while. Right? So these are features of the DAW application that could be utilized. And if you're interested in further information, I could always answer questions on that. Thank you.
Thank you, presenters. At this time, we'll take some questions. Any questions? Don't be shy.
Oh, you can hear me, right? My question is for the first speaker, right? The panel, sorry. Yeah, the app will be like, well, the last speaker as well. The app will be helpful for people who already know how to play the instrument and stuff like that, right? But what about the ones who never even saw a Steelpan and stuff like that? How would you be able to help them practice their techniques and stuff like that in terms of literally playing the pan? Because that's just an app and they're just playing it on app, so they're just touching it with their fingers. When it comes to striking a note, it would be a totally different ball game. So I just want to know how you guys will go about helping them understand that part.
Thanks for your question. So my presentation was definitely geared more towards structured learning, not necessarily freelance learning. So this was definitely geared towards educators within either they do private tutoring, or within schools. So I can't say, I won't want to just tell you, oh, it can work for any and everybody. The 2 apps that I presented are for teachers who, like I said, are active teachers, and how they can use the applications to enhance learning within their classroom. The apps are for not to eradicate classroom instruction or general instruction, but it's to enhance the aspects of within your classroom. Because within your classroom, you can find, with time, managing a classroom full of maybe 20 plus students, especially if it's a public school. So these applications that I talked about are really just to enhance distance learning. When you're away from the classroom, how can you continue instruction? Or we're in the Caribbean, so we have flooding, and these type of things. How do you combat the issues that you can't control, but you still need to fulfill the requirements of a syllabus and of your term, and students still have deadlines to meet. You have SBAs and all these sort of things. So it's really to combat some of the issues that educators have, and really to engage students, but not to eradicate regular instruction. So if you're a new student or you're a new learner, you still need to get a teacher. That's my...
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a question for the, well, not really one. For the second panelist, what advice would you give to an aspiring tuner or pan maker in terms of finding an avenue for learning outside of the CVQ system?
Okay, thank you for your question. I'll just give the advice that I was given when I spoke to people like Augustus and whatnot. It is to attach yourself to as many master tuners as possible. Work with them, become apprentices, stay close and absorb as much as you can. And this is something that is not overnight. There are a lot of highs and lows in it, but it really is necessary. So you have to come to this dedicated, prepared to work very hard, very long hours, but in knowing that the reward is there. It's close, but work is required. So yeah, just stick very close to who we have around still, and look for programs wherever you can. There are programs around, and then there's MIC. And MIC does not only take those who would have gone through the CVQ program. If you have some prerequisite, some experience there, so that's my advice.
Okay, I have another question before you go. Instrument making to people who don't really have that knowledge.
By presenting it to them, giving them the hands-on experience, which has been successful with different age groups. When we started in 2003, we had participants in the program. We had the young participants present to their peers and to even primary school students. And even as I am teaching it now, we talk about the technology, which I agree needs to go hand in hand with the classroom experience and whatnot. But I have students who may not necessarily be so interested in the academic business, but of course it is involved in the CVQ, but we teach them the history, but in a fun way. You use your technology, you use YouTube, and you use drama and different things, but definitely have them engage in the hands-on. So that's what they're most excited about. Get the tools, get the drums, and link them. They have to see people in the industry. They have to meet with people in the industry, and different age groups as well. So not just those who have been there for many years, the younger persons in the industry as well, and that works. And of course, kind of forgetting your question, but of course they have to also link them to the business opportunity that is there.
Okay, so, thank you.
You're welcome.
For the third panelist, do you think that the electronic methods that you propose today could be readily integrated into music education?
Certainly, and that is one of the bullet points I would have dealt with too. Music education, okay, let's say one of the items I had there is learning scales. You could have the scales routine there, and the scale, your chords, arrangers could do the modification of the different routines and audition it right in the, in a studio or dining room if you want.
Okay.
So there are many methods. In fact, you saw a section of the first video where you have the pan icon and the notation was on top, right?
Yeah.
And they synchronize. So that could be used for learning the sight read, but it's a more gradual development and learning process. It's up to your imagination, really. How
Okay,
it could be used.
thank you.
I think, to me, I look at it as a very versatile tool to assist the pan movement. In fact, one of the things I'm proposing, I think is the first bullet there, is digital drill master. that should be a new position in the Panyard, where the person with this technology now, there's a position you create, and he works with the arranger, and they develop their routines and change the tune and modify it in such a way that they could audition different versions and come up with the best, rather than you have to get the actual Pannist to do it. And then when you finish now, you produce the video, and then you pass it on to the Pannist, like if it's the score. And they could practice, they could go home and practice, and come in the Panyard and save time, or learn our next tune,
Okay,
There's the capability more.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Let's say thanks to the presenters. We'll just take a brief pause, just for 2 minutes, while we set up for pannotation, and this will be our final moment for today's session. 2 minutes. Thank you.